Sean Rad stumbles into the brush, barely keeping his balance. He thinks he's outrun them, but he can't be too certain. He stops. The only movement is the sweat dripping under his t-shirt, which clings to his skin. I founded Tinder and all I got was this stupid t-shirt, it reads. Come out! I know you're out there. I'm not afraid of you. You think you can intimidate me? I'm Sean fucking Rad. I'm the king of Tinder. Without me, you'd have nothing. You know, several models have tried to hook up with me, but I don't even want to hook up with them. I'm into brains. But I could have hooked up with them if I wanted to. Oh, why are you all trying to wreck my life? As Sean squeezed his eyes, he saw them. Everyone that was out to get him. There was Justin Zach's Whitney Wolf. Sean and Justin founded Tinder together, and Whitney was there too. It was just so annoying. She wanted to be credited in all the news articles as a co-founder. Obviously, she was a co-founder, but they couldn't just come out and say it. A girl co-founder? Ugh, gross, dude. And then when they broke up, oof. He texted her some gnarly stuff, but obviously, Sean was gonna take Justin's side. Like, come on. They had to fire her, and now she was suing them. A founder suing them. Well, not a founder, but you get it. She's suing them for sex discrimination. And then there's Barry Diller. Sean thought this guy was looking out for him. Sean wanted to be one of his proteges. He wanted to be in Diller's Killers. But he took advantage of Sean. The agreement they signed was bullshit. Barry knew Sean wasn't gonna read the agreement. Come on, it was boring. And worst of all is Nanci Joe's sales. What a fool. Here's a conspiracy theory for you. Why does a journalist never want to see hot people succeed? He's not a monster, you know. All he wanted to do was be a cool guy, bring people together. They just needed to remember how much fun they all had. Jason Derulo came to the Tinder launch party in 2015, and he was so moved that he took his shirt off. And they didn't even have to pay him extra to do that. But the truth was, these demons were just in the Tinder founder's head. Whitney, Barry, Nanci Joe, they didn't even think about him anymore. Like the millions of people swiping on the app he created, they had already moved on to the next best thing. He was the only one stuck in the past. Like so many business boys before him, the only one he was hurting was himself. This is the Corporate Gossip Podcast. Match.com and Tinder. Boy Boss Amateur Hour.
Speed.
Welcome back to the Corporate Gossip Podcast. I'm your host, CPA Scorned, Becca Platsky. I'm here with my brother and my co-host,
Data analytics playboy Adam Platsky.
and we are relaxed, rejuvenated, researched, and ready to rip.
Absolutely ready to rip.
Before we dive into today's episode on Match.com, I want to do a little bit of updates, a little bit of housekeeping. If you are already on the Patreon, you know that every other week we do a Hot Topics episode where we cover anything that's happened in the news. It's a little bit more freewheeling. It's a little bit more unhinged, maybe 50% more unhinged than our regular episodes. We have a lot of fun on those. Those are on the Patreon. And then we thought, gosh, when we do these research for these episodes, we each probably put in, would you say, 40 hours of research?
I sleep really well at night these days, especially when we're recording.
Why? Because you're so exhausted?
I'm exhausted.
I know. So we do so much research. Ultimately, what you get is an episode that's about an hour long with all of the most consequential items that we've kind of distilled from these 80 hours of research between us. However, sometimes things get cut for time. And more importantly, sometimes we find things that we're like, this is tangentially related to the topic at hand, but quite interesting and quite juicy. Or there are other times where we're like, shit, that's a little piece of gossip that is not fully substantiated. And so because we only use pieces of gossip or research items or news articles that we've covered that come from reputable sources on the main feed, we were like, we just need somewhere to kind of talk about these other little items. And so what we thought we would do is add 2 podcast episodes every month to the Patreon. So this is what it's going to look like if you're on the Patreon. Every other week you get the hot topics, and then every other week along with the main feed episode, you kind of get a bonus episode. So like things that didn't make the cut, little unsubstantiated rumors, just a little bit extra. If you're like, I want to know even more about Match.com, about Sean Rad, about Justin Mateen, about Whitney Wolf and Barry Diller, I need to know more. I love these characters. That you're going to find on the Patreon, all for as little as $5 a month. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, think of this as the after show for
Watch
our
What
Bravo
Happens
fans.
Live. Yeah,
No, the after show with commentary from the cast.
Got it.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's
Or if you're a sports fan, like Hard Knocks, a little preseason teaser into the season. You get a little all access. It's a little bit of that.
Okay, that's a great analogy. I'm sure. Remember, this is a completely independent podcast. We don't have any big sponsors. We're not on a network. It's literally just me and Adam doing this and producer Mike. So when you subscribe to the Patreon, you keep the ship running. We will not turn the ship around, as many CEOs like to say. We keep it going straight ahead. And your contribution to the Patreon helps us keep this running. In addition, though, this year, you are going to hear something different. You are going to start to hear ads. Now, these aren't going to be ads from the Schmetterschmelps of the world, from the Blamazon blurbuses, etc. These ads that you're going to hear starting today are from
boner pills.
We asked our listeners, which of you sell boner pills? If you do, these ads are from listeners like you. So before we went on hiatus, we said we want to start having ads, but we want to do them like it's community based, right? So a bunch of listeners have written in. We kind of do like a name your price model. So like maybe if you're a smaller organization, you don't pay as much. If you're a bigger organization, you pay a little bit more. Now we have those ads ready and you're going to hear about them. I personally love these ads. Every company that has kind of come through on this ad program, I'm like, I want to use. All of them are small businesses. And yeah, I'm really excited, and I hope you are excited about them too. So when you hear the ads, one is going to come up in just a minute here. Don't skip through it, because it's another listener just like you who's promoting their business, and we want to support them and they want to support us. And if you want to advertise on the Corporate Gossip Podcast, you can do so by clicking the link in the show notes, or you can also find the link in our website to fill out a form, and then we'll get back to you and you can hear your ad right here on the Corporate Gossip Podcast. So I'm really excited for this. And I also want to shout out Adam again. This was his idea. And I just think it's so genius and like very much in line with what we want to do, because ultimately we're not anti-advertisers, right? We're just anti-exploiting people.
Yeah.
So this has been really fun and a really good way for us to also like create a nice community around this podcast.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful thing. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear the ads. I'm excited to possibly read some ads if I can read.
So are you ready to dive in? Just interrupting for our very first ad read. This is very exciting. Remember, all of our advertisers here on the Corporate Gossip Podcast are listeners like you. And the first one is potentially one of the most delicious. This is Karina's Confectionery. They are a small batch custom bakery in Orlando, Florida. It's a one-person operation, and their passion is creating awe-inspiring desserts that are visually stunning and uniquely delicious. I was looking at their website with my sister-in-law, and we were amazed because they create these cupcakes that literally look like flowers. If you didn't know any better, you would think it was a bouquet of flowers. And their specialty is floral-inspired designs. So a lot of their custom work will include a botanical element. So buttercream succulents for cakes and cupcakes, or they do like hand painting little delicate flowers on macaroons. But when it comes to taste, they love to work with unexpected flavor combinations that pique people's curiosity. So I'm going to read you a quote from Karina. Whether I'm serving the classics or coming up with new flavor creations, customer satisfaction and community building are the driving force behind everything I do. If you want to order cupcakes or any baked goods from Karina's Confectionaries, you can do so at www.karinasconfectionaries.com or click the link in our show notes.
Let's dive in.
Okay. I thought this episode would be really kind of perfect for the first episode post-hiatus because, as you know, part of the reason that I had to go on hiatus was because I got married 2 months ago now. And I got married to somebody that I met on a Match.com service. And Adam, you also got married to somebody that you met on a Match.com service. I think both of us met our partners on Hinge, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Did you know Pete Buttigieg and Chasten? I always forget if it's Chasen or Chasten. They also met on Hinge.
Do you have anyone else who
That's
met
all
on
I
Hinge?
have.
That's all you got, huh?
That was it. I just actually randomly found that in another article I was reading, but I didn't do the reverse search where I searched for everybody. This episode is going to focus on Match Group and then with a big sub-bullet on Tinder. But just to set the stage, Match Group owns 46 apps really across the world. Match.com, obviously, Tinder, Hinge, OkCupid, all of the people meet apps. So I think there's like Black people meet, Muslims meet, like blank meet apps, Plenty of Fish, The League, BLK. In Europe, they own Meetic, and in Asia, they have Pairs and Azar. So maybe some of our listeners are familiar with those. So I want to set the stage in terms of where we are now, today, with this company as of August 2025. And then we're going to go back in time and figure out how we even got here. Lately, you might have been seeing Match.com in the news. They've been involved in a couple of different lawsuits, including one that's in trial now in Dallas over the addictive nature of these apps. Just the idea that like similar to TikTok and what we've talked about in terms of these apps kind of like forcing you to be addicted to the endorphins rather than what their stated goal is, which is to match people or help people meet, right? The FTC also alleges that until mid-2019, Match employed some pretty deceptive practices. So basically, Match.com was sending people emails who used the free service and said, people are looking at your profile. They'd show users pictures of people who had been looking at their profile, but those people that had been looking at your profile were fake or fraudulent accounts. And Match knew that, but they still used it to kind of bait you into paying extra for the service so you could see who was looking at you. This is like a guilty habit of mine, but sometimes I like to take weed gummies and read annual reports. That's me. And I read the annual report that came out in April. It's not great. Stock price is truly lagging compared to some of the indexes. First quarter revenue declined 3% from a year earlier, and then a 5% drop in the number of users who paid for service or subscription. Net profit is declining 5% year on year. Perhaps it was Starboard Value also took gummies when they were looking at the annual report, because a lot of activist investors, including Starboard, including Elliott, there's another one too, have kind of amassed a stake, and the activist investors are kind of like circling the waters.
Yeah, when I read the analysis of the report and the summary, and I read that they were blaming it on discretionary income headwinds with people spending less money.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, that doesn't seem right, because I don't think sex is discretionary, and I would argue that most people who are on the apps are like looking for sex,
that's
looking
such a
for
good
love,
point.
and that's
Yeah.
not like, to me, that's like a necessity.
Yeah.
Like, I'm willing to pay. I never paid for the apps, but I would have been willing to pay for that service. So, like, that to me is not something that
you could cut. Like, you would cut maybe your
wouldn't
Hulu
cut that.
before you would cut
As
Match.com.
I'm looking at things, I'd be like, no, I really want to find love. That's on the high list of things that I want in life. I'm not cutting that.
Well,
so for them to say that's discretionary spending, it just feels like an easy...
That's so interesting. In addition to the fact that once you find a mate, potentially you could start splitting rent. So you're really just investing in your future.
Right.
You know, you make that money back. I think that's a great point. I'm certain that an analyst didn't push back when they said it was discretionary income or discretionary spending.
No, I mean, not in this article. They just kind of... I mean, the stock
took
price
their word
did.
for it. So they also fired their CEO of 3 years, Bernard Kim. They replaced him with Spencer Raskoff. Raskoff used to be the CEO of Zillow, and he was actually supported by those activist investors that we just talked about. Here's Spencer with Sam Altman and another co-founder of this company called World ID. Side note, asterisk, we're going to talk about World ID and Sam Altman in our next episode about OpenAI. But effectively, this guy, Spencer Raskoff, says, in order to deal with the bot problem, we're going to partner with Sam Altman's World ID that scans your retina so you don't have those pesky human verifications that don't collect your human physical data. And it's tied, guess what, to a digital currency. It's an everything app. Yippee! You know what I think is interesting about this picture? And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the pictures right between us right now. If you're not watching on YouTube and you still want to see the pictures that we talk about, the visual aids that we use for this episode, you can click in the link in our show notes. So what I think is interesting about this picture is you see Sam Altman, Spencer Radkoff, and another guy. And would you say, what height do you think you're seeing among these three men, or in particular between Sam Altman and Spencer Radkoff?
Spencer Radkoff looks like he's probably 6'4", and Sam Altman could be like 5'10".
What do you think about this promotional picture of Spencer
wow.
Radkoff and Sam Altman?
I didn't connect the two at all. I was looking. So my
well,
eyes.
Describe what you're seeing.
They're at the same height.
So that picture was taken kind of like, hey guys, look over here, right? Nobody's prepared. And it's very clear that Spencer is much taller than Sam Altman. But then you see this promotional photo where either Sam Altman has been superimposed onto the photo to look the exact same height as Spencer Radkoff, or zoom out, cameraman. How many boxes is Sam Altman standing on, or potentially is Spencer kneeling?
Yeah, we don't see the bottom, so we
don't see the bottom.
They could have cut him at the thighs.
Potentially.
I have a question though before we jump into any more of this. How are we making money on dating apps these days?
Now they mainly make money through keeping you on the app for as long as possible and making it so that you kind of have to pay to access better features. So I remember when I was on the app, there was something called like roses, and I don't remember which app this was on, but you would have to like pay a couple dollars to send a rose to somebody. And then there was other apps, I think Hinge in the very beginning, you could only see 10 matches at a time or a day unless you paid to get to the higher level. There are other apps, for example, on Match.com, you can only see who's looking at your profile if you subscribe to the next level. It's kind of very similar to like a LinkedIn payment model where you unlock better features if you're not on the freemium version.
I don't know. The features there seem pretty predatory though. When you like
LinkedIn.
No, not on LinkedIn. On I don't know. I
it certainly does feel predatory, and I think it kind of feeds on your insecurities. The other thing that we'll talk about at the end that's interesting about these apps is they constantly have to grow their user base. They have to get in new, younger kids, specifically Gen Z, because once somebody meets on Hinge, you'll remember Hinge had a huge marketing campaign where they said, we are the app that is meant to be deleted. And once a user deletes, they're not a customer anymore. For example, Mike and I, hopefully, will never be a customer of a dating app again. They've lost our money
Mike's still
forever.
on Hinge, he told me.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
But freemium.
Yeah, he's just looking for better things.
Okay, got it. Unless you're Mike, you're not continuing to pay for this service. So that's a serious business challenge, to constantly needing to be feeding this app with new users every year, because you're going to slough off a significant amount of your users, as opposed to LinkedIn, who are going to continue to pay for this service. And you lay on top of that the fact that now that they're a massive conglomerate, they have these huge shareholders that are demanding higher and higher and higher returns. Luckily for Spencer Radkoff, absolute complete business genius, unbelievable strategic mind. His first day on the job, lay off 13% of his staff. Reorg, reduce costs, shore up margins. Great. Thanks, Spencer. So Match is basically like classic end stage circle around the drain brain rot, while 7 people at the top try to stuff as much money as their pockets as they can before the crash. But it wasn't always this way. At one time, Match and Tinder and Hinge were the apple of everybody's investors' eyes. But can we go kind of back a little bit? Because this is kind of just an interesting fact. I'm going to breeze through this section because I don't want it to take up too much time. But can you guess when the first online, or at least computerized dating system was created?
Well, I read the article, so.
Oh. Were you surprised that it was 1965?
Yes, I was.
So basically, this 25-year-old accountant and an IBM programmer developed New York City's first computerized dating prototype, where basically all these women and all these men would submit their preferences and then they'd match them up. So it was like it was what we describe as rudimentary, but at the time was quite like a pretty big technological breakthrough. But I think what it was doing was capitalizing on the idea that there was increased choice in our lives at that time, right? So you had women's choice, the birth control pill. In another year, 5 years from then, abortion would be made federally legal for the time. And I think when it comes to dating over the next few decades, the perception of choice was like a huge factor in the way that people adopted these dating services. So this is what you're seeing is the Match.com homepage in 2011. This is from the Wayback Machine. And one thing I noticed is in these pictures of people, not a Facetune in sight. These are just unedited photos of people. And so if we return to the year 2011, this is before Tinder launched, there's already general dating websites. There's eHarmony, Match, OkCupid, and then others that launch to capture a specific niche. So like Ashley Madison, you mentioned Grindr, 5 Minutes Only. But one thing that's noted in this article is it's really hard to make money on these sites. Mostly they relied on banner ads. When you look at the founders of these popular dating sites, eHarmony, Match.com, and OkCupid, one thing that stands out to me is there's no women founders, which I guess is that makes sense, like in terms of tech businesses in the late 10s. But I think it's even more interesting that women are not even, most of the time, women are not even mentioned on the executive team. The only woman in the article about the origin of these dating apps is a scientist called Helen Fisher. She was a biological anthropologist who was doing research for eHarmony. She basically pioneered a lot of those scientific-based matching in the early dating sites would use. Like, I don't know if you ever were on eHarmony, but you would have to answer like pages and pages and pages of questions. And then what you would get is when you'd look at somebody's profile, you'd see, oh, you're a 90% match with that person. You're a 22% match on that person. Whether this is scientific or pseudoscientific, whether matching worked or not in that way is like honestly still up to debate. But I'm sure that there were conversations between people like Helen Fisher who seemed to genuinely want to help people find a good match. And then these guys, right? These programmers who were not necessarily incentivized by the number of matches, but how long people use the apps for, right? Like how many clicks you do, how many people you like.
Yeah, and then there's this quote from the guy who was at Y Combinator talking about dating apps. He says that the most valuable asset to an app is attractive women.
Really?
Isn't that gross?
That's disgusting.
And then he says, and then come the creepy guys.
That's the other thing that's interesting and like kind of, we're not going to talk about it discreetly, but you will notice throughout this entire episode just the programmer culture, extreme misogyny that kind of is an undercurrent specifically of these dating apps. But I would kind of open that up to just tech and Silicon Valley at the time and now as well. But we'll get into that for later. The thing about these programmers at these apps, especially early on, is they don't have to worry about revenue. They don't have to worry about profit margins. These companies and these little baby apps that were spawning across Silicon Valley are absolutely drowning in VC money. Their business daddy said, listen, honey, we can worry about monetization later. Right now, it's all about land and expand. Business boys love a war metaphor. So tap into that 18 to 30 demo. The average age for an eHarmony user is 40. So I don't want to see any Upper Peninsula divorcees or middle-aged hobby comedians from Boise. Okay? So let's get into corporate gossip number 1. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Here, put on this bedsheet and these gladiator sandals. We're going to a college toga party for business.
I'm looking at this picture and what stands out to you in this picture other than the gladiator sandals?
The house, the massive
really?
house.
I'm looking at this woman's macrame
bathing suit. That was
What
very
a time.
popular. That really was a time. We loved, as millennials, we loved a high neck bathing suit. Remember Stassi Schroeder in the first season of Summer House, and Kyle Cook was like, wow, I feel like I'm in the hot tub with Steve Jobs. She was wearing a turtleneck bathing suit. And something about us millennials, we just love to be cozy on top, sexy on the bottom.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting way to tell this story is to follow the rise and fall of Tinder and their founders. But it all starts at a college party in Beverly Hills. I feel hungover just looking at this picture. This is from the Tinder launch party at one of the co-founders' parents' house.
Oh, this is at Rad's parents' house?
Justin Mateen's parents' house.
Oh.
I mention parents' house.
It was a frat house.
No, I know. I mentioned parents' house because this ain't like a suburban ranch with an above ground pool. This is a $30 million mansion in Beverly Hills where Tinder co-founder Justin Mateen grew up. So he has this party at his parents' house and he says, in order to get into the party, you have to download the app. Kind of fucking genius, right?
Yeah, that's kind of genius.
Yeah. I couldn't find a ton about Justin Mateen's family. It's clear to me that they are Iranian-American real estate moguls. Obviously, they're fucking loaded. Justin met his co-founder, Sean Rad. They actually both went to a private high school in Los Angeles called Milken Community High School, where tuition in 2024 is $52,000 a year.
Michael Milken College. Or Michael
Is
Milken
it
Academy.
Michael
No,
Milken?
I'm
Oh, I was
kidding.
like, I wouldn't
The
be
junk
surprised.
bond king? Yeah, we'll give Michael Milken
$52,000 a year. Okay, when it comes to Sean Rad's family, they're also super rich. This is a picture of his mom and dad with him in what seems like, I don't even know how you would describe this, like an ornate outside courtyard with marble as far as the eye can see and iron spiral staircases. But why I know these people are rich is because they have a white fluffy dog.
I was going to say, it looks like that dog gets groomed weekly.
Yeah, you can tell.
I can tell you because I have a poodle thing, and dogs don't look like that unless they are freshly groomed.
And we've got this picture with Sean Rad's dad looking down at him lovingly, Sean Rad's mom seemingly like wiping away some boogers from his face or something. This man is in his 20s when this picture is being taken. And they're very much dotingly loving on their big, precious boy. When we think about the actual founding of Tinder, it's a little murky. Sean Rad drops out of USC and is working at an incubator called Hatch Labs. Importantly, Hatch Labs is founded by IAC, which is a media holding company run by Barry Diller. Okay? Remember Barry Diller. He comes up all the time. He is Sumner Redstone's foil in the Paramount episode. We talk about him as the Forrest Gump of corporate scandals. Him and Diane Furstenberg are fucking everywhere.
And married.
Yes. Well, they're married, but yes, they are everywhere together. So put a pin in him. We'll return to him later. So Justin and Sean and their friend Whitney Wolf, start to raise money for Tinder. And at first it's called Matchbox. They also want to call it Tinder. And this is Tinder's original pitch deck that they're working on at Hatch. And at Hatch, Sean Rad, Justin, and Whitney are working on this app. It's actually Whitney who comes up with the name Tinder. They had initially wanted to call it Tender. And for what it's worth, Whitney Wolf also comes from money. Her dad is a successful property developer in Salt Lake City. Whitney and Justin would soon start dating, but they basically ran this frat party strategy across USC. There's a profile on Sean Rad in a 2016 issue of California Sunday magazine, and here's a quote. Whitney would take the app to sorority houses, climb on a table to talk about how hot the guys were on it. She'd then run to a frat house and tell them all of Kappa Kappa had signed up.
Smart.
They had basically convinced these kids that they should try online dating, and it worked. 2 months later, according to them, the app had made 1 million matches. It still kind of blows my mind that college kids would use Tinder. By the time I was in college, it was nobody used Tinder. We had Facebook, but we weren't using dating apps. But like, you're literally in already one of the horniest places on earth, like especially USC. A year after that, they reportedly made 35 million matches and were growing by 5% every day.
I disagree. I think that there is an appetite and a need for apps, because I think a big reason why people go out in college is to see girls.
Yeah, but
But what I'm saying is that removes the need to go out. Like, if at any time I can get the dopamine to see a pretty girl and figure out whether she likes me or not, I'm gonna do that in the comfort of my bed.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's the same high as like. They equate it to the same high as like seeing somebody out and getting a nod, which, you know, Rad in his profile says. He's like, it's very similar to that. It gives off the same brain chemistry.
No, I understand, but it's like to me,
you
part
want to
of
be
college
social.
is going
you,
out.
You want to be social, but I grew. I was 3 years younger than you. By the time I was a freshman in college, Tinder was there, right?
And you used it?
And yeah.
That's crazy to me. So here's a quote from Sean Rad, quote, "We started Tinder because we realized there are a lot of tools that help humanity build stronger bonds with the people we already know. But there's been a lack of focus around helping us as individuals meet people that we don't know." I mean, thank God for Sean Rad. Otherwise, I think we'd be extinct. It's funny because, like, there is a subset of millennial founders that really do love to talk about themselves, like cult leaders. He goes on to explain why it was so difficult to meet people they don't know. And again, Adam, you tell me if you actually relate to this and I'm just being overly cynical. Here's the quote. "If you're someone who's hunting for a relationship, there's this constant sense of rejection when not everyone you want to meet is open to meeting you back. As the hunted, you feel very overwhelmed and that there is this massive sense of noise. The dynamic is an inhibitor."
I don't like what Sean Rad has to say. I read this whole thing and it's disgusting. He's a total narcissist.
Can I go on?
Yeah,
then?
I've got here a list of why he's a narcissist and then a list of why he's gross.
Okay, let me keep going. "Part of the human condition is the struggle. If you're seeing nothing but Victoria's Secret models, one won't necessarily stick out. When we introduce people who aren't suited for you, it actually accentuates those who are," which to me is basically, once you see all these grenades that are out there, you're going to realize how hot those chicks are that you were swiping left on. He goes on to say, "What rock and roll was about freedom, and now Tinder's about freedom. It's about not having to live in conventional understanding of how relationships form, and it's about pursuing your desire." So go ahead and give your psychoanalysis.
All right, so here are the reasons why he's a narcissist. He portrays himself different to the media than the people who have interactions with him. He's completely image focused. He's always looking at TMZ and saying that they take bad photos of him. His time is the only one that matters. In the profile, he goes on and like cancels an interview last minute because he's on Dayquil. He wears an unbuttoned shirt with an Audemars watch and Givenchy suit. He's extremely dismissive of coworkers, and him and Justin have matching G-Wagons.
Yeah. It reminds me of what happens. Have you ever met somebody who is still with their high school sweetheart and they've been with their high school sweetheart since they were in high school?
I think we're talking about the same person.
I don't know who you're referencing, but this isn't everybody. It isn't everybody, but some people who have that experience, you can kind of tell when you meet them. You're like, oh, okay, you haven't gone through rejection. You haven't kind of gone through that moment of finding yourself and figuring out what you want, figure out what you don't want, and having your heart broken and whatnot. I think it's very similar to young founders who, especially when you're like Sean Rad and you drop out of USC when you're 20 years old. And then after that point, everybody's constantly telling you yes. And again, you never have that rejection. You think that the first idea you ever have is the best idea you'll ever have. And you're going to stick with that because it worked, right? You end up like becoming so emotionally stunted that you do exactly those things that you just described. Like, a CEO should not be canceling a interview because they took Dayquil. And it's just like those type of behaviors that just reek to me as maladjusted, underdeveloped, and like, of course this thing was going to crash and burn. Of course he would be fired multiple times. Of course there would be lawsuits. Like, but again, where are the guardrails? Where are the people telling him no? Like, why is everybody at every turn telling this guy, yep, keep going, Sean. Keep going, Justin. You got it.
Do you want to know 5 reasons why he's gross quickly?
Oh, God, that wasn't it?
No, that was just narcissism.
Okay.
So, 1, he Snapchats his employees as CEO. He publicly admits to sexting on Snapchat.
So he's sexting his employees?
That's what I gathered. He only receives sex. He doesn't send. He said that in the same breath. So he doesn't sext, but...
He gets sexed.
He gets sexed.
And he just goes, nice.
Yeah, he's got awful style.
Subjective.
He's a self-proclaimed sweetheart because he doesn't send dick pics.
It gets worse. I have so many worse quotes from him. You think that's bad? That's just from that early profile of him, right?
Yeah.
This California Sunday profile is right after a party that he throws. And I have some pictures of this party. This is the 2015 Tinder Plus launch party featuring Jason Derulo and Zed at Hangar 8 Santa Monica. So here are some of the people who joined Jason Derulo.
Who was Kristen
Obviously.
Doute dating at this time?
2015. I think she might have been dating James Kennedy. She was dating James Kennedy in 2015.
The things that are in your brain,
That's
amazing.
crazy that I just,
Somebody fact check her on that as well.
So, yeah, please. I mean, guys, we try to do our best to get everything accurately, and we are not afraid to issue corrections. If we've said anything, we do our best to make sure that everything is researched, but it is totally possible that we will make a mistake. If I make a mistake about who Kristen Doute is dating, that is something that I take with the heaviest of burdens, and I will issue a correction post haste. So after this party, the author is in a car with Sean Rad and Tinder communications director Rosette Pambakian. She ends up being an important character.
Yes.
Okay. So just remember her. It's an easy name to remember. And so she describes, in the car, the three start talking about a travel themed party Tinder just had at Hangar 8 in the Santa Monica airport. They tell me about the celebrities who attended. Jason Derulo, Zed, Martin Garrix. Quote, Jason Derulo took his shirt off on stage, Sean says. It was that kind of party. It was the party of the year. Emphasis my own. He's quiet for a minute. I cried that night. To create a brand that was just so big and important to society that I deserved that party? Well, I cried. I know what he's getting out here, but my God, get a grip. Like, Jason Derulo. But then this next line comes, quote, the car is quiet again. Rosette Pambakian says, I cried this morning on the way to work. I get really sentimental about Sean Rad. What would we do without Sean? And how amazing it is, what we're doing, what we're building. I'm sorry, guys. I think you might have just been hungover. That sounds to me like an uppers come down.
Yeah, I think they're coming down, and that sounds like a come down.
The driver turned around and said, I cried too because you guys are so fucking cringe. It's reducing me to tears. Get out!
The other thing I do want to call out about Tinder is, did you know it only took 23 days to develop it?
I believe that.
Crazy. And then 2 months later, they had 1 million.
But they were in a startup incubator. I think they had like a very limited time frame, and they had like tons of.
But I mean, I think we should call out that it is impressive to do that in 23 days, even if it's like a beta to have 1 million. I guess it's more speaks to, while the product was good, it does speak to how badly people want to have sex.
Yes. So let's get into corporate gossip number 2, which is business daddy issues. So here we have a picture of Whitney Wolf with Tinder co-founders Justin Mateen and Sean Rad. So I want to talk about a comparison between Tinder and American Apparel. Like, I saw a lot of Dov Charney in Sean Rad and in Justin Mateen.
I feel like this is like an LA story more.
It
like
isn't,
yeah. It's it is based in LA, but yeah, like sleazy guys kind of doing LA. Yeah, I could see it.
Besides existing in the same hipster downtown LA Silver Lake microcosm, they also appeal to the same users. They claim to be revolutionizing an ancient industry. So for American Apparel, it was textiles. For Tinder, it was matchmaking. And they're also run by underdeveloped and entitled playboys who manage their headquarters like a deranged frat house. And this is key, neither of them read the fine print on the legal documents that they sign for their company and end up getting screwed over by their business daddies. And if you did listen to that American Apparel episode, you know how this plays out with Dov Charney just running around with no shirt on in his LA apartment. And it is a full fight for control of the company amidst a number of sexual harassment and discrimination lawsuits. It's literally the same exact story. So let's break it down a little bit and take a trip to Tinder HQ in WeHo in early 2014.
When I would travel to LA, I was at the Belmont.
We're going to the Belmont.
We're going to the Belmont.
If you go back in time, if you're presented a time machine, you still get to keep your days, right?
I'll have to ask somebody about that. But that's a great question.
Okay. Yeah, find out and come back to us. 3 main characters are Sean Rad, the CEO. He is 28 at the time. His chief marketing officer is Justin Mateen. He's also 28. And then the vice president of marketing, Whitney Wolf. She is 25. At the time, Tinder had, by their own reporting, 50 million users. One thing they should absolutely get credit for is patenting a couple of things in relation to the new technology that they had created. The first is the swipe gesture that you use to match or pass. They created that. And then the other one was the double opt-in, which was connecting users. When I say I'm interested in you and you say you're interested in me, then we both connect. Because in other apps before that, it was just a single, like, I like you. Do you like me back? But here's the rub. Remember, I told you that this company was created in an incubator, and it wasn't just any incubator. The incubator was called Hash Labs, and it was run by Barry Diller. Now, Diller, we have him looking straight into the camera in classic kind of yellow-tinted aviators.
We call those porn star glasses.
Oh, who's we?
I have always called them porn star glasses.
He definitely looks like a washed-up porn star in this picture.
70s porn star glasses.
And he's clearly on some type of yacht with some...
linens,
and there's, like, some type of... like shellacked teak behind him.
It looks like a teak from Myanmar, if I were to guess.
Okay. Diller ain't your run-of-the-mill tech investor who wants to cultivate the next generation of entrepreneurs. He's more like a classic villain who seduces you with a kegerator and stock options and then squeezes you till your eyeballs pop out and then drinks your blood.
As long as you're younger than him.
Well, it's not hard to be younger than Barry Diller, but he's a classic VC groomer. We talked about VC grooming. I think we talked about that in our Etsy episode. He helped Rupert Murdoch create Fox Broadcasting. He was the former CEO of Paramount Pictures and Universal, and by the year 2000, he was the chairman of Expedia and IAC, which owns tons of media and internet companies. He's really like the Jack Welch of the media industry, I think.
That's a really good comparison.
And I would say that in the sense that first, he's a giant turd, and second, he turned out many successful media and tech executives under him. Mike Eisner of Disney, Jeffrey Katzenberg of DreamWorks, Derek Arashari of Uber, and more. There's actually a name for his crew. Did you know this? I'm not kidding. They call themselves Diller's Killers.
Diller's Killers, but also he's comparable because he's kind of looked at as a god in the media space, right? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. He also just came out with... wait, did you read the book?
No, I know he came out of the closet to no one's surprise.
Yeah. But he is still married to Diane von Furstenberg.
Well, of course.
And he's worth $4.2 billion, which is actually lower than I anticipated, but I mean, still pretty high. He's super powerful. Here's a picture of him in a Corvette, and I just captioned it, Barry Diller driving off with all of Sean Rad's money.
Yeah, the pictures that were included in these articles were like very villainous.
Yes.
I was like, I don't know how she found these, but these are great.
So... let's go back to our three co-founders, because again, this is where we kind of get into the VC grooming. If you listen to the Etsy episode, like, this theme will ring, you'll remember this theme. Because when they developed Tinder at Hatch Labs, they didn't know who Barry Diller was, or at least they didn't know what an evil villain he was. According to a New York Magazine article that, of course, we'll link below, a Tinder revenge story, this is an incredible article. I mean, the reporting here, I do want to call out the reporter because I just think it's so well done. This is by Jesse Barron. Sean Rad knew he was a big media mogul in New York, but he didn't apparently take the time to Google him, nor to read the fine print on the agreement he signed, which made Tinder exclusive property of Barry Diller. Diller owned it all. The company, the patents, everything. Side note, this seems very unusual. Like, most startup incubators aren't taking 100% of your company.
Yeah, I was going to say, for our project, when we were interviewing with incubators, that was definitely not
the case. Yeah. So I was very, very surprised at that, but also not shocked that it would be Barry Diller's incubator that did this.
But wait a second, Rad was being paid by the incubator. I don't know if he was part of a company.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm wondering if they paid him, and then in lieu of, because he got a salary, they were like, you work for us now, and anything you create.
Which he made $160,000 a year.
But
at Hatch Labs.
Right, but he should have been making millions.
No, I hear you, but at the time of being in an incubator, like, they want you to be bootstrapped.
Right,
$160,000 a year is like a what? You shouldn't be getting $160,000
or
a year.
If you do, you should be asking yourself, what's the catch?
Yeah.
That's a huge amount of money relative. Now, he should have been taking zero, because ultimately, if he owned his company, he could have been a billionaire, and he ended up, as we'll see, with like
money,
a couple $100 million, but he should have had so much more. Now, we just talked about VC grooming, and like, when it came to Etsy founder Rab Callen getting fucked over by venture capital, I felt bad for him. But when it came to these guys at Tinder, I'm like, You literally had all the resources in the world and you didn't read the fine print.
Yeah, seriously, your parents are millionaires. Multi-millionaires who live in Bel Air. They didn't give you a lawyer?
That's exactly what I said. I'm like, they couldn't pay for 5 hours of a lawyer's time. Like, at that point, you kind of, I feel, not this, I don't want to say you deserve to be scammed, but you are being negligent around a scammer that you easily could have Googled.
Wait, Sean Rad lived with his parents, and I'm sure his parents have a lawyer on retainer
Seriously,
with the amount of money that
they're
they
real
make.
estate guys. Like, they should know, hey, I don't know, I'm sure somebody knows. Like, guys, please, anybody, if you don't have the resources, like, go to the fucking library. Like, I'm sure you could talk to somebody who knows something about contract law, but please don't just sign something without even reading it yourself. Okay. So Sean Rad meets up with Barry Diller in 2014 because after he's already signed the agreement, after he realizes that Tinder is so successful, after he realizes that it's worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, he's like, this is fucked up. Okay. So Barry Diller says, fine, I'll give you 12% of the company, which still seems like kind of a scam, considering that these three created it, right? And what did Barry Diller do? But remember, 12% is a big question mark because this is not a public company. It's a subsidiary of Diller's Match.com, which he owned at the time, right? And Match.com was private at the time. So the valuation is a little murky. So he said, listen, here's what we're going to do. We'll each hire our own iBankers. We'll do independent valuations and we'll see what they come up with. When we go public, you'll get your shares. And Sean Rad feels pretty confident about this plan. He feels like he could trust Barry Diller. You stupid, stupid boy. So let's move to corporate gossip number 3, which is Tinder founders. We're stupid, but we're also sexual harassers, allegedly. So the month that Sean Rad signs that options deal with Diller, Whitney Wolf files an explosive lawsuit against Tinder and Match alleging, quote, atrocious sexual harassment and sex discrimination. I said earlier that Whitney and Justin had been dating, which is, I mean, at this point, pretty normal in this environment until they broke up. She alleges in the lawsuit that, and this is from that New York Magazine article, quote, Mateen became aggressive, calling Wolf a gold digger and a disease. He called her a whore during a company party, feeling threatened when a blogger wanting to write a feature on Wolf. Mateen said that he would fuck the blogger's wife and that the blogger would be, quote, a handyman for my backyard and will be on a leash. I will shit on him in life. So she brings these texts to Sean Rad and she's like, dude, like at this point, we're not dating anymore. Now we're coworkers and he is harassing me. And he tells her to quit. And I'll put some of the, we'll go through some of these text messages. I was thinking maybe we could do some reading. There's other allegations in the lawsuit. She alleges that that Sean Rad and Justin would often leave Whitney's name off the founding documents. Remember when we talked about all the other founders of these dating companies all being men? Mm-hmm. Justin and Sean allegedly told her, you're a girl. It just doesn't look so professional if we put your name on the founding documents, despite the fact that she was very much a founder of this company. This is when Sean and Whitney are texting back and forth, and she's trying to figure out, hey, like, I need to know if I'm going to quit tomorrow. She actually says in these texts, if I'm going to quit tomorrow, I need to tell my dad so he can continue to pay my rent because I can't afford it on my own. And so I need to know, am I going to get severance if you make me quit? Am I going to get a grace period where I can continue to work? And Sean goes, you can keep whatever you vested. There's absolutely no grace period for someone who quits. That's a ridiculous ask. And it's so funny that this is all in text message screenshotted. I mean, it's just so stupid. Whitney Wolf eventually settled later that year for an undisclosed sum, and she started Bumble, which is one of the most popular dating sites in the US and is not owned by Match.com. She's married to an oil and gas heir named Michael Hurd. She's fine. Here's her. I thought this was very funny. This is a picture of her and Diane Fostenberg in the Women in Charge gala. So I thought that was kind of...
Is she in a wrap dress?
She is in a wrap dress. I'm sure a Diane Furstenberg wrap dress. That brings us back to Sean Rad. So while this is all going on, he's about to give a keynote address to the Forbes 30 Under 30 Summit. By the way, did you see somebody send me this meme where they were like, AI has now been able to figure out how to predict a crime up to, a year in advance. And someone was like, yeah, Forbes 30 Under 30 have been doing that for years. So So he gets a text from one of Barry Diller's consiglieres that because of these allegations, he would be demoted. So he would not be CEO anymore. He could still be president of some organization, or I think they wanted him to be like chief of product or something. This is from the Forbes reporter who would moderate the interview with Sean right after this all went down. He says, quote, Sean says, I went through every stage of mourning at once. Fear, a bruised ego. I started thinking about the company and my whole future. End quote. And with that, he walked into the Pennsylvania Convention Center, posed in the green room for Instagram shots with supermodel Petra Nemkova, and then bounded onto the stage with me, where for 30 minutes he gave 1,500 top young entrepreneurs a masterclass in how to create a viral phenomenon. I mean, listen, it makes sense that the board would fire him. Like, it is smart. Like, clearly this guy can't handle the pressure. Good job, board. Good job. They installed an executive from eBay to help take the company public, and they never had problems again. And with that, let me take a break, and we will be back with the next piece of corporate gossip. Just interrupting for our second ad read, just as exciting as the first. And remember, all of our advertisers are listeners just like you. A lot of people ask us about whether or not they should get an MBA. And we always say, if you're listening to this podcast, if you get what we're trying to do here and you want to get an MBA, go for it. Because we need more executives like you who get it. And so I want to talk to you about Ellen Lawless Consulting. They are a woman-founded, women-led MBA consulting firm that provides personalized consulting to help their clients get into top MBA programs worldwide. They primarily work with women, and they're really passionate about helping put more women into positions of power and influence. They actually only work with 100 clients or less per year, so they can really focus on choosing people and stories that they believe in. It's super important to them that they support people who want to do things for the right reason. So if you're interested, if you're thinking about applying to an MBA program, check out ellenlawless.com. That's www.ellinlollis.com, or check the link in the show notes. And we're back. You ready for corporate gossip number 4? Corporate gossip number 4 is Nanci Jo Sales strikes again. Adam, does the name Nanci Jo Sales ring a bell to you?
You have to remind me.
So do you remember? Hi, Nanci Jo. This is Alexis Nyers. You said I was wearing 6-inch Louboutins at court. I wasn't. I was wearing kitten heels. You don't remember that? That was the bling ring.
Nanci Jo, this is Alexis Nyers calling. I'm calling to let you know how disappointed I am in your story.
She was the one who wrote the book about the bling ring with Alexis Nyers and them stealing
No.
stealing jewelry from, who was it? Was it Hillary Duff?
A lot of them. Well, it was Audrina Partridge.
Right.
It was a lot of people, but Audrina Partridge, I think, got the raw deal. Which Audrina Partridge had a house in the hills. That's crazy. Could you imagine making
They were
that
making good money.
I know. I just didn't realize how much money they were making.
So Nanci Jo Sales, icon, writes this article in Vanity Fair called Tinder and the Dawn of the Dating Apocalypse. So she talks about some of the backlash that's happening around Tinder, like the way it gamified dating, kind of all the things that I was talking about earlier. It creates an environment where everybody's just looking for the next best thing. And the funny thing is, like, nothing in her article was explicitly new or like that crazy or that insane. It was basically standard criticism of an online dating app that Tinder should have absolutely expected. Like, this should have been not a big deal at all. Just another criticism of Tinder. But clearly, either they weren't expecting it or whoever was running the Tinder Twitter account was not in a good place emotionally, because whomever is running that account has a full-on crash out. I want you to know, these are like 15 tweets I'm just going to read the highlights, but in 2 minutes. So they read the article and then they starts tweeting out. Tinder users are on Tinder to meet people for all reasons. Some of them want to hook up, just like in real life. And then in the many years that existed before Tinder. But we all know from our survey data that it's actually a minority of Tinder users. Our data tells us that the vast majority of Tinder users are looking for meaningful connections. Talk to the female journalist in Pakistan who wrote just yesterday about using Tinder to find a relationship where being gay is illegal. Talk to many of our users in China and North Korea who find a way to meet people on Tinder even though Facebook is banned, which I'd like to investigate that a little bit further. Talk to many of the Tinder couples, gay and straight. They've gotten married after meeting on Tinder. Or, and every sentence, by the way, is a new tweet. Or talk to people that have made some of their best friends on Tinder. You could have talked about how everyone on Tinder is authenticated. Or you could have talked about how everyone on Tinder is on an equal playing field. You could have talked about how users build a Tinder profile who expresses who they are. Or how millions of Tinder users have connected to their Instagram accounts so potential matches can learn more about them. Instead, your article takes an incredibly biased view, which is disappointing. But it's not going to dissuade us from building something that is changing the world. Hashtag Generation Tinder. That was in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Did they at her?
It's not clear if they added her because those tweets are gone. I only got screenshots of them.
Got it.
So this screams 25-year-old. Like if you've been 25-year-old woman and you have broken up with a 25-year-old man, you're going to get text exactly like that. How about when I did this for you? How about when I did that for you? You could have done this, but you didn't. You did that. Like it's the same MO. It's the same exact like rate of speech. Like I can tell that whoever wrote that was a 25-year-old man. Just by
man.
Yeah, maybe 25-year-old woman, but it's very clear that somebody who did not have their full frontal lobe developed was writing those tweets.
Could have been one of your exes based on.
I could name a couple.
Yeah.
But it's not a 25-year-old man, right? It's allegedly the comms department of at the time, public company. So it's unclear who published these tweets. Was it the new CEO that was in place after Sean Rad was demoted? Did Sean Rad still have access to the Twitter account? Either way, they basically Barbra Streisand themselves because without those tweets, nobody would have noticed the Nanci Joe Sales article, right? And it caused an even bigger commotion. And so the next day, just 5 months after he was installed, the eBay guy was out and they swung around a flower crown and they hit the first person they saw who was waiting there ready to take back the reins, but Sean Rad. They reinstalled him as the Tinder CEO. And at this point, the IPO is like weeks away. So corporate gossip number 5 is the VC urge to give a bunch of 20-somethings $1 million and no oversight. So as we do more episodes of this podcast, it's fun to point out these stories that keep repeating themselves. So we talked about Dov Charney, and this is very similar to me in terms of Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. This is like Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX, the prequel. We got a bunch of friends right out of college, swimming in VC money, working together, dating each other. They're on the cusp of an IPO. What could go wrong? So let's move ahead a few months to 2015. Tinder's parent company is about to go public. Sean Rad, back at the top spot, and he gives an interview to the London Standard the night before the IPO.
Narcissist.
He's probably feeling like 1,000. He's feeling so good about himself. He's probably feeling on top of the world. And at some point in the interview, I gotta imagine the Match.com PR woman is sitting right there. And Sean Rad talks about the fact that he could have any supermodel he wants.
Right.
The night before the IPO. Here's a quote from the article. Sean Rad, Tinder's 29-year-old chief, had sought to describe his courage in batting away a supermodel.
How courageous.
Begging for sex by saying he was more attracted to smarts. Quote, there's a term for someone who gets turned on from intellectual stuff. What's the word? I want to say sodomy.
Yeah, that's it, Sean.
What's the term for when you're a super genius like me? I think it's photosynthesis.
You know what? I just figured it out. Sean Rad is Charlie from Next Gen NYC.
Yes.
I just realized that.
It truly is.
Yeah.
It really is. And you know he's a relentless mansplainer. Like he's probably said many women before, like, I don't know, man, I'm just more into sodomy. Like I like when a girl's smart. She doesn't have to be hot. And then how many people just sat there and was like, did he just say sodomy? I'm just forget it. I'm not gonna say anything about it. You invented a fucking dating app. Like sex terms and terms about what you're into should be like, you should have that down pat. Obviously, this article blew up, and if I were a potential investor, I'd be a little spooked by a founder who has like Jax Taylor level confusion when it comes to like meanings of words. Here's a quote from the article. Match Group chairman Greg Blatt remember his name, he's going to come up shortly, responded to criticism of Sean Rad by slamming the messenger, saying that the, quote, unfortunate interview had, quote, a lot of inaccuracies and, quote, a lot taken out of context. But he also tut-tutted Rad, saying it was, quote, not his finest moment, and, quote, I think he needs to be a little more careful about how he speaks with certain reporters.
I love it. They in the article, they also outline, like, what a quiet period is. Like, shut up.
Yeah,
like, don't say anything to fuck up the IPO. Maybe don't talk about sodomizing people or your understanding of what sodomy is. QUIET.
Barry Diller's like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. And also in this interview, Sean Rad is like muttering over Nanci Jo Sales. He's like, yeah, I something around the fact that like he looked up stuff about her and he doesn't think she's a very good reporter and all this stuff, which makes me think he wrote the tweets. Like, he's still upset about that months later, right before the IPO, right before he's about to become a multi-millionaire. You're still upset over one article that was written about you. I think you wrote those tweets.
I think he wrote the tweets.
Like, so Nanci Jo, again, fucking Nanci Jo. I put her up in the echelon with Bethany McLean in terms of like my superwomen in fraud. So she responds to another article, quote, and the article is titled, An Open Letter to Tinder's Sean Rad from Vanity Fair's Nanci Jo Sales. There's some bangers in this article, and I'm going to read some excerpts of this article verbatim, so just bear with me, but it's so good. Dear Sean Rad, congratulations. I heard that Match Group, the company that owns Tinder, the dating app you co-founded in 2012, successfully went public yesterday. I guess that means you're a whole lot better off financially than you already were, having co-founded such a successful app, and one which, according to a piece earlier this week in the London Evening Standard, quote, analysts say, end quote, has 80 million users worldwide. Wow, that's a lot. But wait, the 80 million figure isn't exactly accurate, at least not according to Match Group, which had to do a quickie SEC filing the day before it went public in order to distance itself from that number. Tinder actually has 9.6 million users in September 2015, according to the preliminary prospectus for the company filed with the SEC on November 17th. Match Group made clear in its filing that, quote, these statements were not made by Mr. Rad. But who are these silly, quote, analysts? According to a 2014 piece in the New York Times, quote, Tinder wouldn't share the exact number of people in the service, but, quote, a person with knowledge of the situation said that, quote, this is fast approaching 50 million active users. I know this person couldn't have been you because you would never say anything inaccurate or do anything inappropriate. That was your Tinder co-founder, Justin Mateen, who was accused of sexual harassment in 2014, not you. According to what you said in the Evening Standard piece from earlier this week, you don't even send dick pics. And I know a lot of women are grateful for that. Your gentle manliness must be why you have a, quote, supermodel begging to have sex with you. Quote, and I've been like, no, you told the Evening Standard. I bet she's upset. On CNBC's Squawk Box yesterday, host Rebecca Quick pressed Match Group chairman Greg Blatt on your apparent suggestion that you, quote, had some inside information that would not reflect kindly on that author, meaning me. Backpedaling from your strange claim of having done background research on me, Blatt said that you actually meant that you, quote, had Googled actual articles that the person, meaning I, had written before, and that he thought there were some interesting things in those articles. Well, thanks so much. I'm glad you find my work interesting. This was something I tried to point out in my response to an avalanche of tweets directed at me one night in August when someone at Tinder decided that he or she would try to besmirch my reputation as a journalist as well. Your Twitter account admonished me, quote, next time reach out to us first. That's what journalists typically do, the tweet said. I don't know what you and your colleagues at Tinder think journalism is, but I don't believe it's the same as what most journalists think it is. Our job is to report on what real people say and do, and how that impacts our world. It is not our job to parrot what companies would like us to know about their products. Our job is an important one, and when the heads of companies decide to go after journalists personally, then I think we're in very dangerous territory, not only for journalists, but for the whole practice of journalism, without which we can't have a democracy. Fucking hell yeah, Nanci Jo! A millennial hates to see her coming. What do you think of that letter?
Yeah, it was great.
Oh my God, fucking let it wash over me. I loved it, every second of it.
I didn't love it quite as much as
Oh
you,
my
I guess.
God.
It was fun, though.
Can we go to corporate gossip number 6?
Yeah.
Okay. Board of Match. Look at me right in the eyes. I double dog dare you to find somebody to be CEO who isn't a dumb creep. Okay? Double dog dare you. So we got to skip forward a bit in time. So Sean Rad is replaced again 16 months later in December 2016 by Match.com CEO Greg Blatt. Finally, in 2017, Sean Rad finally leaves the company and the board. According to New York Magazine, this was an email between Greg Blatt and Barry Diller right after Blatt takes over. Quote, as I sit here in my LA office, 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning after a string of 13-hour days since New Year's, I can tell you this place is so fucked up, it's unbelievable. To call it amateur hour would be indefensible insult to amateurs.
That's a great line.
According to a Tinder employee who worked at headquarters at the time, Blatt thought Tinder had gotten fat on its initial success with no processes in place to replicate it. Quote, Tinder has grown like a weed by chasing cool kids, but they actually didn't know what drove their growth. So Blatt wanted measurable results, long-term plans, and actual financial forecasts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the basic stuff. All the slide decks at Tinder just had pictures of boobs and butts. All the presentations were just like jib jabs with like Sean and Justin's face in them of like little elves.
No, it was G-Wagon interiors.
Yeah.
Comparison. Oh, dude, I'm gonna get suede.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get BBS rims. That'll be sick.
Yeah, this will be great with my zebra steering wheel cover.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
gonna look
yeah.
fucking sick. And on the back,
Dude.
I'm gonna have a bumper sticker that says, "Keep honking, my dog is driving."
Do you think it'll look good with Givenchy slides?
Yes. 100%. Come on, Greg. Oh my God, they're in the financial forecast. God, have some fucking whimsy, Greg. So here's another thing to note. As CEO, Greg Blatt was in charge of valuing Tinder. Remember back when Barry Diller said, listen, when we go public, Sean, we'll give you your shares, okay? You're going to get 12% of the company. Sean's out now. Greg Blatt is in charge of valuing Tinder. But at the same time, he's the CEO of Match. It is in Match's best interest to value Tinder as small as possible so he can pay out Rad as little as possible, right? But Greg is finding it hard to do the valuation stuff and the measurable results stuff because the month he took the top job at Tinder, he too sexually harassed an employee at a Christmas party, allegedly. Trigger warning. This is from that New Yorker article. Quote, that night, Blatt got drunk and flirted with Rosette Pembakian. Remember her? She was the
Yeah.
one who said that she cried in the car.
She's a crier.
The VP of Marketing and Communications. They wound up in a hotel room along with 2 other employees. In a legal deposition several years later, Pembakian said that Blatt then, quote, climbed on top of her in the bed and started, quote, kissing my arms, my shoulder, my neck. Blatt said only that they consensually engaged in some snuggling and nuzzling. Rosette Pembakian, for her part, like she didn't want to make waves. She kept it a secret. So put a pin in that for the time being. Come spring, Greg and Sean are trying to figure out a valuation number for Tinder. They're like, we're adults here. We can figure it out. So like you write a number down and I'm going to write a number down. And Sean just writes every single zero and it takes him like 20 minutes. And Greg just writes like 2 zeros and they switch papers. And Sean's like, holy shit, you're literally offering me pennies for this company. This is extremely fucked up. He's like, fuck it. I'm going to hire my own iBanker from Jefferies whose name was, did you see this name? Storm Duncan. Who he had do some reconnaissance. So, quote, while Storm Duncan worked the official chat channels, Sean Rad was on a group chat with anti-Blatt faction of Tinder vice presidents who strategized how to game their meetings with the banks. One idea was to refer to the financial model as this model instead of the model to subconsciously open up their mind. Every other slide they show is a picture of Greg Blatt in handcuffs and Sean Rad taking a poop on his head. So negotiations break down so badly that eventually Greg just cuts off Sean completely. Quote, on April 18th, Sean Rad wrote Storm Duncan an email about Blatt. Fuck him. We're at war. We will destroy him. This is going to be the biggest lesson of his life. 9 days later, something shocking occurred. An employee filed a report with Match's general counsel accusing Greg Blatt of misconduct at the December 2016 Christmas party. The employee who filed the report was not, as would be expected, Rosette Pembakian, the alleged victim. The employee who filed the report was Sean Rad. The timing made it appear as though Rad had reported Blatt in order to knock him off the CEO chair during the valuation process. A few weeks after Rad reported the Christmas party, Blatt receives a disturbing email from a director at the Match Group. The director had invested money in
Say it.
Fire Festival.
Yeah.
And was giving Blatt a heads up about imminent salacious press. But Blatt's attention was elsewhere. Quote, he emails back. He goes, oh, you think Firefest is going to be a big deal? He goes, no one's even going to know about Firefest. I doubt it's not even going to be subject of 1 or even 2 documentaries. I highly doubt it. He goes, I have bigger problems. Quote, Sean has gone off the reservation and is trying to burn down the house. Barry just had to get involved and threaten to go after him for everything he has. His parents have, and anyone who he knows has. It's really awful. He's a fucking nut. Later, Blatt told the court that he was exaggerating and Barry Diller's threats were only figuratively true. Amidst all of this, Match.com's bank came up with a final number, $3 billion, which netted Sean Rad $360 million when he cashed out immediately and poured that money into Ellen DeGeneres' California ranch for $11 million.
So I want to bring up 2 things.
Yeah.
The first is that Blatt had some more issues at Tinder than you covered.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he was an older guy, so he didn't really understand the vernacular. For example, he didn't understand why people kept writing IRL in messaging. He was like, what does Ireland have to do with anything? Sorry, I don't know what IRL is, and it was in real life. The other thing is that email that you noted, like, this is going to suck in 10 years when all these executives are so brain rotted and atrophied from AI that they're not writing these emotional emails. They're like, let me just put this through my chat agent. My chat agent will be like,
make this sound less unhinged.
We are going to deteriorate Josh Rad's living conditions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, you're such a good point. Wait, you said that they got in a fist fight or something, Greg Blatt and Sean Rad?
I read something in an article that they had to be separated at one point, Blatt and Rad.
I mean, it makes sense. So Sean Rad gets $360 million and all that money, and he's still fucking fuming. He told a friend, I can't look at this and be happy. Nothing. Every dollar it goes up in terms of the stock market valuation, I get more sad and more upset. I think Sean Rad just needed a weekend at Miraval. But he would not be satisfied until he sued the shit out of Match.com. So let's do the last piece of corporate gossip, which is nasty grams from Greg Blatt. So in this lawsuit, Sean Rad alleges that Greg Blatt did exactly what he suspected he would do. He tries internally to make Tinder valuation as low as possible, but externally to shareholders, he's saying that it's hugely valuable, right? This is from, again, that New Yorker article. In court, a series of emails seem to condemn Blatt. Can you do some of these quotes from this email?
Sure. This is Blatt.
Yeah. Just do the bolded quotes. And Adam's going to be Greg Blatt. In court, a series of emails seem to condemn Blatt.
There's already too much revenue.
Blatt wrote to a senior executive during the valuation process.
We've really goosed this thing beyond what I think it can do.
Then when this executive showed him a model that New Year's registrations were increasing, Blatt responded that the numbers should actually be decreasing.
This is unacceptable. It's going to totally fuck us. Totally. I don't know how we didn't focus on this part of the fucking process. God damn it.
You can tell from these emails that he's trying to, do some financial manipulation to make Tinder seem less valuable. There's this other moment where they're about to launch a new feature, but Greg Blatt actually wants to delay it until the valuation process is complete so that they don't have to incorporate that new revenue into the valuations. So obviously the defense for Greg Blatt's side had explanations that made each one of these emails seem like they meant the opposite. But in the end, Match agreed to a settlement. They paid $441 million to Sean Rad and his co-defendants, so like other early Tinder employees, which I think seems like a really small number. It probably only added, like after lawyers' fees and stuff, like I would say maybe a couple tens of millions to Sean's bank account. The reporter called somebody who knew Sean Rad and asked, like, why do you think he would settle for such a small amount? Here's the quote from the former employee. Sean went from nothing to this, which his parents owned a $30 million mansion. He didn't exactly come from nothing. Sean went from nothing to this. He captured this one idea. It's his baby. What if we did things that made it easy for people like us to meet girls in bars? He's an awkward LA guy, and he did this one thing. And the reporter asks, but he already made 400 million. So some might say, who cares about another, 100 million? And this guy who knows him says, it's irrelevant that he got 400 million. It's irrelevant that he's got 400 million because it's human nature to think about what you lost. That's the story of Match.com. Should we do the follow-up? Where are they now?
Let's do the where are they now, but I think an interesting piece to this story is that Match.com actually reached out to us for comment based on what you had said. They reached out.
I wasn't sure if I was going to include
I think we should include it. It's an interesting fold.
Yeah, so they reached out to me. They wanted to know, I mean, this is pretty standard. I don't think it's that like crazy, but they reached out just wanting to know what we would be covering. This is the comms from Match.com and then also the comms from Tinder, just what we would be covering. I basically just said, hey, like here are the stories that we're going to be covering and the key topics. I said, if you want to give a statement, I can review it and we can include the pertinent parts. I gave them a deadline of yesterday night. I probably would have accepted it if they sent it this morning, but we haven't gotten one yet. And obviously we're recording, if any company, if we ever get like, for covering a company and that company wants to provide a statement to us for us to read, it's fine. I'll do it.
Yeah. Well, if it depends on the statement.
I guess it depends on the statements. Yeah.
I personally loved that there were people who were CC'd on it. Like for me, like this is payment for me. I get to see people who get PR people who are now CC'd because of the work that we're doing.
Yeah,
it's cool to see.
It was cool that I guess it was definitely a milestone because I think when we had John Flannery, the former CEO of GE, reach out to us and say that he liked the podcast, that was a huge milestone. I've heard from various lawyers of cases that we've covered that their legal teams have been listening to our podcast. Like that was a huge milestone for us. And so this was certainly another one of those things like, oh, wow, like the comms department of an actual company that we're covering actually cares enough about what we have to say to potentially provide a statement. Now, they didn't provide a statement, so maybe they don't care that much, but it was quite interesting to me. I say, pat us on the back.
I already framed the email.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
I got it tattooed.
You got it tattooed on you.
Yeah. So
where on your lower back?
On my lower back.
It's the hottest tramp stamp.
If they send us another email, I'm just gonna have to split the butt cheeks because it's already pretty low. So let's do a follow-up. Good point. So we already talked about Whitney Wolf. She's fine. She's doing great. She hangs out a lot with Sarah Foster and the David Foster's daughters.
Oh, that's a good crew. I would hang out with that crew.
It's pretty blonde. Pretty and blonde. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I bleach my hair.
I think she's fine. If you Google Sean Rad, you'll mostly see stories about his real estate sales and purchases. He's married to a designer. In 2024, actually, he made headlines. Did you know he was one of the investors in Gloss Lab? Yeah, so he was involved with Gloss Lab, which was accused of stiffing landlords and closing stores. This was, I think, it was like the manicure and pedicure stuff that service that didn't use water. Was that it?
No, I think that's a different one.
Okay. You know what I'm talking about,
I
though.
do know what you're talking about.
So anyway, he's also a part of a lawsuit accusing TikTok of pro-Palestinian bias. Quote, this is part of the lawsuit. One of the plaintiffs about the lawsuit is that for every view of pro-Israel posts, there are about 54 views of pro-Palestinian posts. If TikTok was a mirror reflecting back what people believe, it shouldn't be a 54-to-1 ratio. And I'm like, I don't know, man. 54-to-1 sounds pretty accurate to me in terms of people who are pro-Palestine versus pro-Israel, but that's just my take.
There was an interesting fold to this story when Sean Rad was originally resigned as CEO. He was calling everybody incessantly, trying to figure out, like all his mentors, trying to figure out what he could do to get CEO-ship back, what were his avenues. And at the time, he was dating Michael Dell's daughter.
He also invested in a wearable that helps users track their mood. It's called Happy Ring. I don't understand what it is.
It's a mood ring.
It's
You
a
put it
mood
on-
ring, but
you-
like...
No, it's an actual mood ring.
No, I
So
understand.
No, I know, but it's a real mood ring that you just put on your hand. It's going to be crazy, man. I mean, I've heard that he's turning down TikTok influencers that want to sleep with him.
He goes, I'm a sodomist.
Yeah.
Justin Mateen. So he also owns a ton of real estate. He actually just purchased a property from LVMH, who we've covered did we cover LVMH? No, we didn't end up covering them, but we will cover them. El Encanto in Santa Barbara. You ever heard of this? It seems like he's getting into the commercial real estate with his brother, Tyler. I'm going to include some clips of him from this podcast he's on with the co-founder of Brex and another. Did you happen to watch any of these podcasts? He just seems to be really into Elon Musk and stonks and going on Business Boy podcasts. Like, such diverse interests. Wow.
Many of the top founders that I've worked with are like, I can see the future, I know what needs to happen. And they have to have an irrational sense of drive where most normal people don't. I'm not an ageist, but I usually like founders between 22 to 35.
In terms of the Match Group company themselves, they've been just ripping through CEOs. So George Blatt stepped down as CEO in January 2018. He was replaced by Mandy Ginsberg, who worked at the company for over a decade. And she stepped down because of some health issues right before the pandemic in 2020. So like early March 2020. She was replaced by a guy who was Zynga's president, Bernard Kim. And then this year, he was replaced by Zillow CEO Spencer Rascoff. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 CEOs in like 8 years. That's a lot of churn. There's a lot of churn, a lot of digital waste. How many decks have been wasted because of all those CEOs turning?
I wonder what the best idea. I wonder what the craziest idea that one of them was like. I'm coming in. I'm gonna mix things up. We are gonna get people to go to a bar, drink, and meet. It's gonna be crazy.
So I actually will go through some of the new ideas. So right now, this company is under pressure. They're under pressure from activist investors. Gen Z users are dating less. They're not using apps as much in favor of in-person interaction, to which I say, good job, Gen Z. Keep it up. Keep meeting in person. You just mentioned stupid ideas. The incoming CEO of, or the current CEO of Match.com, Spencer Rascoff, wants to work on advancing artificial intelligence in new products. Okay. Here's a quote. His plan is to shake off Tinder's reputation as a site to go to for mostly hookups. Quote, think of Tinder like a bar where people come together and meet new people. We have to innovate to drive more people into our establishment, and that means renovating our bar.
Like soft bar.
Right. So they are testing features in Europe like double dating. This is interesting. So you match with somebody and then your friend matches with somebody. And if you guys are friends, then you can both go out together.
That seems hard.
It does
seem like
hard.
It's easier to get a throuple going than that.
Well, actually, that's a good point because I feel like poly is becoming much more popular among Gen Z. So I'm sure there's something they
I
can
forgot.
do there.
I was just talking to somebody about an app that is for that and other more sex forward stuff.
Or non-traditional relationships.
Yeah, there shouldn't be anything. Yeah.
So, quote, this generation of Gen Z, 18 to 28, is not a hookup generation. They don't drink as much alcohol. They don't have as much sex. I think Spencer Rascoff told investors this month, we need to adapt our products to accept that reality. And you know that there was some McKinsey consultant somewhere that was like, is there a way to make kids hornier? Anyway, and like I mentioned, one of their first actions for the year was to cut 13% of their staff. So are you ready to go to the takeaways?
Yeah.
I guess my biggest takeaway is just like, it's so interesting about this business model. I ended up talking about this at the beginning, but like, this is a business model that you constantly have to have new users. It's not like Adobe or Verizon where you can kind of get a customer and you keep them for life. For a dating app, you have these conflicting incentives. Like, you say you want to help people find a partner, but once they do, they stop paying you. So an ideal customer would be somebody who is desperate to find a mate, but never does, which is kind of scary when you realize that these are the kind of conversations that are happening between investors and Match and OpenAI and Facebook. Like, they want a lonely man who's feeling desperate, and they want to tell this man, like, keep matching $5 more and we'll meet you somebody real. Like, I just, like, the apocalyptic nature of some of these conversations that I'm sure are going on at the top levels kind of scare me in terms of, like, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody somewhere is thinking maybe we can just, in matched services, have the option for an AI companion. And you pay us $5 and we'll give you an AI girlfriend through Tinder.
AI girlfriends, they have the real dolls.
Sure,
right?
but
I mean, it's all, look, it's all possible. It's all extremely scary. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between a user and an active user, and that becomes extremely apparent when you're talking about a dating app, because while they may have had 80 million users, aggregated 80 million unique users, only 10 of them are active, right?
Yeah.
And it's shrinking. Your user base is shrinking, right? Gen Z's not using it. People are leaving it daily, getting married, right? Going into monogamous relationships, whatever. So really your only bet is to gamify dating and to trick people into thinking, oh, something better is going to come along, and making dating a sport. And that's really sick. That's what's really wrong with
It's
this.
really sick, especially when you realize that they're a monopoly in this space. And I think that was like, we'll talk on the Patreon about Whitney Wolf too, and like where Bumble plays into this whole aspect, because like she has a standalone company that is doing just as well as these other companies. And I think in many ways, this is also a Whitney Wolf revenge story, because Bumble is tremendously successful. And I think we talked about a lot of the misogyny that is happening in Tinder, and like the fact that she is flipping it all on its head and making a standalone super successful app. And like, these are the things that we miss when you're in a monopolistic environment. Like, there's less innovation, there's a lot less options for consumers, and that's exactly what we're seeing when Match.com gobbles up every single app that's out there. Yeah, it's just, it's bad. It's bad for daters. It's bad for investors. It's bad for employees. It's bad for everybody. So with that, I think we'll leave it there. What would you say? A good start to the season? What do you think?
Great start to the season.
All right. So we will maybe see you guys on the Patreon. Otherwise, we'll see you in 2 weeks, where you're going to have an episode on Sam Altman and OpenAI. All right. Talk soon. Bye.